I'm standing here ankle-deep in black water that literally keeps trying to drag me under. The rain is lashing my face so hard it almost feels personal at this point. We're out here on the edge of the Hydaspes River, completely surrounded by darkness. I know the world's going to write about this night, call it 326 BCE. But right now, it's just a freezing, violently angry storm. And somewhere out there, just beyond the thunder on the opposite bank, are 200 war elephants. I know, with absolute certainty, that if I make one single wrong step tonight, history doesn't remember my name. It just remembers my bones drifting downstream.
Look at us out here, an entire empire, bogged down in the mud. The river right in front of me is growling like a living beast. Every time the lightning flashes, it tears the sky open for just a heartbeat before the dark stitches it all back together. And in that split second, I can see exactly what we're up against. My boots are sinking into the cold mud. Every breath I take tastes like wet earth, campfire smoke, and just utter exhaustion. You know, I've crossed deserts that absolutely wanted me dead. I've scaled mountains that tried even harder. I've completely shattered empires who honestly believed their walls could stop my ambition. And now I'm being challenged by water. Not exactly the glorious, epic duel the poets promised us.
I look around at the men standing right beside me. I really need them to grasp the absolute, razor-thin margin we are walking tonight. You make one wrong step tonight and this river takes you. The current out there is just churning violently, a black, rushing abyss that's dragging massive, uprooted trees and broken branches past our boots like they're defeated armies. Right now, this water is our most ruthless, terrifying enemy, because it's completely blind and it does not think. But the thing is, the water is only our first enemy. Another flash of lightning rips across the swollen river, and I see them. King Porus isn't trying to hide. He wants me to see exactly what we're marching toward. He wants the sheer terror of what's waiting on that opposite bank to just seep into our bones before we even draw a single sword.
Through these sheets of driving rain, I can trace the outline of his entire force. Ranks of heavy infantry, standing their ground. Lines of cavalry, just waiting for the order to charge us down. Chariots with their wheels completely sunk into the heavy mud of the banks, and then, towering over all of it, you see these final massive silhouettes. 200, that's what we're looking at. 200 enormous shapes shifting out there in the rain. And they're just swaying, gently, almost peacefully in the distance. Until the lightning strikes again, and it lights up these massive tusks capped with brutal, gleaming steel. I can see my oldest veterans staring, and they're staring way longer than they should be. Look, these are men who have fought the Persians, the Scythians, the Bactrians. They've climbed practically impossible cliffs for me. But nobody in my entire army has ever had to charge into a wall of angry buildings that scream. Because honestly, that's exactly what an elephant looks like to a Macedonian soldier. It's basically a moving fortress with opinions, and mostly violent ones. The psychological weight of those beasts is sitting really, really heavy on us tonight. Craterus steps up beside me, the freezing rain just endlessly dripping off his bronze helmet. He takes a long look at the men and then looks right at me, and he just says, "The men are tired." He doesn't even need to explain it. I can literally see it carved right into their faces. 8 straight years of marching has left every single face thinner and harder. Scars are just overlapping older scars. Their armor's been repaired so many times that some of these breastplates have more patches on them than original bronze. Home isn't even a place anymore. It's just a memory that gets polished a little smoother with every passing year.
Corinus joins our little circle in the mud. His tone is totally respectful, but is stark. The river is impossible. If we force a crossing here, Porus destroys us before we even form our ranks. And you know what? I don't argue with him, because he's entirely right. If we try to attack directly through this current, my army is going to reach that far bank in scattered, broken little groups. We'd be soaked, freezing, gasping for air like hunted animals. Just absolutely perfect targets for total destruction.
I'm watching another massive oak tree tear completely loose from the bank and just violently disappear into the current. The black water literally swallows it whole. If a river can swallow a giant oak tree, what kind of chance does a man in armor have? That dread is just sitting right in the pit of my stomach, totally silent and solitary. But a king doesn't get to share his dread. I close my eyes for just a second against the storm. I'm not praying. I've always preferred making actual plans over asking favors from the gods. We know we can't fight a flooding river and 200 elephants at the exact same time, so we're going to use a tactical deception we've been carefully weaving for days now. We're going to break the pattern. Because routine is the oldest trap ever invented. Human beings absolutely love patterns. For days, I've had the cavalry marching up and down this riverbank, We've been lighting huge campfires, sounding our trumpets, building rafts right out in the open where everyone can see them. We make all this noise, we make all these promises, and we make King Porus believe that every single night is the night we're finally going to cross. And then, we do absolutely nothing. We just lull him into this false sense of security.
But tonight, we break the pattern. Credatorus is going to stay behind with a large chunk of the army. His camp is going to have the bright fires, the blaring trumpets, this highly visible, completely static force. To Porus, it'll look exactly like my camp always has. But while he keeps his eyes completely fixed on those decoy flames, my silent strike force is moving right into the heart of the storm. Nothing but darkness, total silence, and small boats.
I look around at my officers. I know exactly what they're thinking right now. The river doesn't care how many kingdoms I've conquered. Water doesn't respect titles. And they know all the horror stories about those elephants. Horses panicking, men just disappearing under stamping feet, tusks tossing soldiers around like broken little dolls. The tension is literally crippling them. So I just give this short, dark laugh and tell them, well, if those beasts can smell fear, let's hope they mistake mine for confidence. A few exhausted smiles actually appear in the dark. Because sometimes a completely ridiculous joke is the only thing standing between courage and total panic.
I kneel down and scoop some of this freezing water into my palm. It just slips right through my fingers instantly. Nothing is staying still tonight. I can't help but think about all the history that actually brought me to this specific patch of mud. My father Philip's legacy, the lessons Aristotle hammered into my head, the towering walls of Troy, every single impossible road that only became possible because someone was crazy enough to walk it first. This river right here, this is the edge of the known world. Beyond it is another kingdom, and beyond that, just the absolute unknown edge. Endless oceans, gods, that's what we're actually fighting tonight. The storm overhead is getting even louder. Perfect. I give the nod. It's time to mobilize. With the darkness as our ally, the thunder is going to completely drown out the splash of our oars. The heavy driving rain is going to blur out any stray light. Tonight, this storm is our shield. The men start lifting the boats, wrapping cloth around their gear to muffle the sound, gripping their spears. There's no grand speech happening right now. This moment just requires movement. I step right up to the edge of the freezing, churning water. I have to be the one to board the very first boat, because looking a man in the eye and asking him to step into that raging river before I do, that would be the only truly impossible command I could ever give. I step into the flood, the cold instantly seizing my legs, and the impatient current grabs the hull of the small boat before I'm even fully inside. The boat just lurches violently the absolute instant it leaves the shore. The storm peaks right as we launch into the black water, covering our noise. Every single stroke of the oar feels way too loud in my own chest. We're just spinning in this current. And out there in the dark, massive shapes keep drifting past us. Dead livestock, carried completely away by the flood. I actively decide not to think about what else might be floating just underneath us. We fight this brutal, sideways push of the river for hours, until, finally, the eastern bank starts to appear through the curtains of rain, right as dawn is threatening to break.
We don't even wait for the boats to fully hit the shore. I leap out into the chest-deep water, and the mud immediately starts sucking at my legs. I stumble in the violent current, but I catch myself. I plant my boots hard into the submerged earth and drag myself up onto the bank in the gray light, completely soaked to the bone.
I force myself to stand up perfectly straight, because a king falls once and his soldiers remember it forever. I have to project absolute, unwavering control right now. Behind me, the rest of the fleet starts emerging from the chaotic darkness. One boat after another, just materializing out of the storm. The impossible is literally becoming organized right before my eyes.
The heavy rain starts to ease into a light drizzle. And then I hear it, echoing all the way across the fields. The distant alarm horns are finally sounding from Porus's camp. He knows we're here, but it's way too late to stop our landing now. I tighten my grip around my spear. The river is officially behind us. The elephants are ahead. The slaughter is about to begin.
As that pale dawn light starts to rise, I look at my men quietly forming up their ranks, and a really heavy, quiet kind of melancholy just settles right in my chest. I know we're going to win today. We're going to adapt, we'll break those beasts, and honestly, out of sheer respect for his immense courage, I'll probably put King Porus right back on his throne when the dust settles. But as I look at the hollow, absolutely exhausted eyes of my veterans as they prepare to bleed all over again, I know this victory is going to carry a massive hidden cost. Soon enough, we're going to find out that exhausted armies just flat out refuse to march any further.
Beyond this river are even larger kingdoms, but I can feel it. We're about to hit an immovable barrier.
I mean, I'm the greatest conqueror on Earth, standing right here on the very edge of India. But as I watch my men march forward into the mud and the tusks, I'm realizing what's actually waiting for me at the end of this campaign. What is the one force that is literally impossible to conquer forever? It's not a flooded river, it's not an army of elephants, it's the exhausted, broken will of my own men.